Arcnera, discover, question, wonder. The lost tomb of Dracula. They buried it. Not just in the ground, but in history. Events too strange, too disturbing, too impossible to be allowed into the mainstream. But some stories refuse to stay buried. They claw their way back to the surface, whispering through forgotten documents, through lost recordings, and through the eyes of those who still remember. In a quiet monastery in Italy, sealed away behind weathered stone walls, lies a grave with no name. For centuries, the monks who live there refuse to speak of it, and for good reason. Inside the stone is a symbol, one historians now recognize as the seal of the Draculefti dynasty. In 2014, a team of historians stumbled upon records suggesting that Vlad the Impaler, the man behind the Dracula myth, may have been buried here. Not in Romania, but in Naples. Why? Some believe he was ransomed by Italian nobility. Others say he escaped death entirely, choosing exile over legend. But here's what matters. When they opened the tomb, it was empty. Not just of bones, but of dust, decay, even time itself. It was as if no body had ever rested there, or something had awakened and walked away. The vineyard that glowed, in a completely different region of Italy, decades after the Dracula discovery, another bizarre incident unfolded. In 1972, villagers from a remote hillside town reported a strange light rising from a vineyard just after midnight. Investigators found a shallow pit. Inside it, a metallic object, perfectly round, etched with unrecognizable markings. Military authorities arrived within hours, removed the object, and sealed the area. It was never seen again. Witnesses said it pulsed, it made the ground vibrate. A visiting geologist, shown a photo before the artifact was taken, said it looked like nothing from Earth, almost like lunar alloy. But how would something like that end up in a vineyard, buried just beneath the surface? The Soviet capsule that disappeared in 1985. A retired Soviet engineer gave a strange interview to a small Ukrainian newspaper. He claimed that, during the Cold War, the USSR retrieved a capsule not from space, but from deep under the Ural Mountains. The object, he said, emitted frequencies that triggered hallucinations in animals, and insomnia in humans. It was hidden in a base near Selyabinsk, until one night, without explanation, it vanished. No breach, no witnesses, no trace, just gone, like it had never been there. We tend to think of technology as something that evolves, but what if some of it doesn't? What if it reappears? What if the discoveries we celebrate are just echoes? Now, the lights beneath the ocean. In northern Japan during the 1950s, fishermen began reporting glowing lights under the sea. Not reflections, not submarines. Lights, moving with purpose. Then came the disappearances. 5 boats vanished in a single month. The Coast Guard found debris, snapped masts, tangled nets, but never a single body. In one case, a metal lifeboat was recovered with a single blackened handprint melted into its surface. The fingerprint didn't match any living creature. A marine biologist, working in the same region years later, detected enormous moving shapes on deep-sea sonar, well below the range of known life. He called them thinking shadows. He published nothing. Days later, he disappeared. The house with no reflections? In rural Argentina. Family vanished without a trace in 1999. Their farmhouse stood untouched. Dinner was set. Clothes were folded. But every mirror in the home was covered in thick black cloth. In the barn, investigators found a large circular symbol burned into the earth, or with dried maize arranged in strange spiral formations. Beneath the floorboards of the master bedroom, etched into the wood, were 5 chilling words. The reflection is not yours. No one has lived there since. Pilots flying overhead report sudden radio silence, compasses twitch, and in some cases, brief visual distortions, like the land is breathing. The places where reality breaks. Throughout human history, we've whispered of thin places, points where the boundary between this world and something else wears thin, where sound bends, where time skips, where things bleed through. These aren't legends, they're coordinates. Warnings, perhaps, left for those willing to look too closely. The more you collect these stories, the more you realize they aren't separate. They echo each other. Objects from nowhere, lights beneath the sea, graves with no remains, symbols burned into the earth, and above all, silence, the kind that governments never acknowledge. Here at Arcnera, we don't turn away from the unknown. We stare into it. We ask the questions that were never supposed to be asked. And if this journey into the strange has stirred something inside you, then it's time. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Because in the next chapter, we'll uncover signals from nowhere, secrets frozen in time, and monuments built by hands history refuses to name. Some events were forgotten for a reason, but once you hear them, you'll never forget. The signal that never stops. The strangest signals are the ones that don't come from anywhere at all. In 1976, amateur radio operators across Europe began reporting something bizarre. A mechanical buzz, pulsing endlessly on frequency 4,625 kilohertz. No music, no voice, just an artificial hum, day and night. And then, occasionally, a voice Russian, flat, reciting numbers, coordinates, names, then silence. The world came to know it as UVB-76, but no one knew where it came from, or why it never stopped. In 2010, it did stop, for exactly 24 minutes. That same day, 3 unrelated earthquakes occurred, in Chile, China, and the Arctic Circle. When the signal returned, the voice spoke once, command confirmed, then back to the buzz. Governments claimed it was military, a relic of the Cold War, but former radio technicians who tracked it for decades disagree. The station moves. The signal's shape changes subtly over time, and the message, if there is one, was never meant. The forest ceremony no one was meant to see. In the Pacific Northwest of the United States, legends of Bigfoot are almost cliché, but one particular report, filed in 1978 and buried in a private archive until it resurfaced in 2015, tells a story that stretches beyond cryptozoology into ritual, myth, and something else entirely. A group of hikers, camping deep in the Olympic National Forest, awoke one night to the sound of rhythmic drumming. Not echoes, not wind. Clear, deliberate percussion. Ow. They followed the sound, half out of curiosity, half entranced, until they found a clearing lit by torches, arranged in a perfect circle. What they saw defied explanation. Dozens of tall, hairy humanoids stood around a stone altar. 2 were at the center. One wore what looked like woven bark across its chest. The other held a bundle of wildflowers and bones. The creatures swayed in silence as if performing a solemn rite. No growls, no speech, just presence. When one of the hikers stepped on a branch, the entire circle turned, and in an instant the torches extinguished. By the time the group ran back to their camp, the drums had stopped. Locals from nearby reservations later told journalists that ancient oral histories spoke of the old people of the trees beings that held unions not for love, but for survival, ceremonies to honor the earth, and to bind spirits to flesh. One tribal elder whispered, "What you call Bigfoot, we call watchers, and sometimes they marry." Maps of a world that doesn't exist. In 1531, cartographer Orance published a map of Antarctica. The only problem? Antarctica wasn't officially discovered for another 300 years. And yet, S-map shows a continent at the southern pole, with detailed coastlines, river systems, and mountains that modern imaging has since confirmed. Beneath layers of ice. How did he know? Some believe ancient civilizations once mapped the Earth as it was before the last glacial shift. Others suggest something far stranger, that he didn't draw from the past, but from a memory of a world that never existed. More recently, in 1977, demolition workers clearing out an abandoned chapel in southern Portugal discovered a carved slate hidden behind the altar. It was a map of the Atlantic, but with 7 islands that don't exist today. One of them, marked Cohor, contained an engraved spiral and the symbol for home. Oceanographic scans of the coordinates revealed a 2-kilometer-wide circular indentation on the ocean floor. The government now restricts access to the zone, citing marine instability. No independent researcher has returned. The photograph no one can explain. In 1959, a vintage camera was discovered at a Nevada estate sale. Inside, one undeveloped roll of film. The photos were ordinary: family, hiking, landscapes, until the last frame. It showed 6 individuals standing in front of what appears to be a domed metallic object half buried in sand. The object reflected no light. The people wore clothes decades ahead of their time. One woman had what looks like a modern tablet. But here's the thing. No record exists of these people. Their facial features don't match any known identity databases. And experts confirmed the film stock was real, unaltered, shot in the 1950s. The photo leaked online in 2008 and was quickly removed. The account that posted it vanished, but one copy survives. And what's behind the group, just barely visible in the frame, is a second object. Larger, blurred, watching. The memory that doesn't belong? There's a theory whispered among fringe researchers called the overlap. It suggests that some people carry memories from places that don't exist anymore. A woman in rural Brazil claimed to have grown up in a country called Nibira. She remembered its capital, its holidays, its map. But Nibira never existed. Not in any atlas, not in any government record. Nothing. Her memories were dismissed as delusion until others came forward. People in India, in Canada, in South Africa, all remembering different countries, different flags, different Earths. The consistency of detail was disturbing, as if they had returned from a reality where the world split, and no one else noticed. Reality, as we understand it, may be far more fragile than we want to admit. Some events are buried not by time, but by force. Scrubbed from records, silenced by fear, denied by design. But here, we remember. If these stories shook the edges of your belief, it means you're starting to see it too. The gaps, the missing pieces, the echoes. Subscribe to Arknara now and step fully into the mystery, because the next truth we uncover may already be living in your memory. Arknara. Discover. Question. Wonder.